Hi, I'm Carlos QUAREMBA and I'm here today with John Milner. John, how are you going?
I'm doing very well, thank you, Carlos.
That's good. I've been following you a little bit because of your experience. Would you like to tell the viewers a little bit about yourself, past history?
Well, after being 13 years in the South Australian Public Service,
Yep.
I then joined private enterprise in Queensland, and I've moved around various states following the work. And I've been a consulting engineer in those years, so 35 years or something.
Right.
And that's the nature of the work, that you can't sort of have it in your own backyard all the time. You've
No,
got to
I know
move
full well.
interstate.
Yeah.
So I've worked on major projects, usually highway projects, infrastructure, stormwater drainage, stream diversions, been expert witness in court cases,
Wow.
that sort of thing. But generally it's just a very interesting career.
Right.
And I've had the unique opportunity to be a director of a company, or a principal as the term is, and yet be site-based.
Right.
I've actually been out there, sitting on the field,
Right.
while a project is being built for up to 2 years at a time.
Okay, so civil engineer is your background then?
Civil engineering, yes.
Okay.
I graduated from the University of South Australia,
Yep.
and I've got a Master of Engineering Science from the University of New South Wales, and I majored in highway engineering.
Right.
I went to the School of Highway and Traffic Engineering.
Okay, fantastic. And that was probably part of the reason I want to talk to you today, was because of your experience and the fact that, you know, in this council there have been some major projects done and there's some major projects slated. And, you know, if we could probably talk about maybe one or two of the things, you know, for example, the Main Street upgrade. Have you had much of a look down there? What are your thoughts?
Well, as an engineer, of course, I'm interested in any infrastructure project.
Yeah.
As a member of the public, now that it's open and you can walk around as a pedestrian, I walked over it yesterday and cast my eye over it.
Yep.
The contractor obviously had some difficulty in the confined spaces that he had to work, varying widths of pavement. He obviously didn't have the opportunity to run a paver down there to get better levels control.
Okay.
But nevertheless, under the circumstances, he's done a fair job.
Yep.
I would have, out of interest, liked to know what the contract said in terms of conformance for levels.
Right.
And core thicknesses of asphalt and that sort of thing, straight edge testing,
Yep.
density, but I don't have access to that sort of information.
Yeah. Okay. And so, you know, as a builder, there's a few things there that I understand, but there's some things that you brought up that I have no idea about. And that's sort of one of the things that I wanted to say was that, you know, I would think potentially you would be a valuable asset as a candidate in the sense that you could give oversight to these projects because of your experience. Was there anything you picked up at all that you saw that may need attention, or that, you know, potentially may be an issue down the track at all? Maybe, you know, is there anything like in regards to the design, the lighting, the materials used?
A lot of hard landscaping features there, the exposed aggregate and the curbing and so on, the colours. It's got the mark of being an urban landscape project.
Right.
More than the civil engineering contracts that I'm used to.
Okay.
Where it's obviously not for highway traffic use, it's
No.
a low-speed environment.
Yeah.
It's supposed to be a friendly, safe environment.
Yeah.
I was pleased to see that they had the tactile markers on the footpaths for
Very
visually
important, yep.
impaired, and they had ramps and that sort of thing.
Yeah.
So all the features you would expect. So I guess my view was a little bit different.
Yes.
In that I'm sort of used to larger projects.
Yeah.
But I think under the circumstances, the contractor's done a fair, reasonable job.
Okay.
But as I said, out of interest, I would have liked to see the contract and understand whether there's been a defects inspection undertaken.
Yes.
At maintenance.
Right.
Maintenance period is.
Yeah.
I think it would pass things like the straight edge test. I don't think it would impound water on the pavement.
Right.
And there are a certain number of constraints that the contractor had to work with.
Yes.
matching curb levels, manhole levels,
Yes.
and varying pavement widths.
Speaking of manholes, I've noticed the manholes are down the pretty much the centre of the road. Is that going to be an issue, do you think, down the track if they do need to do any work?
Yeah, that's unfortunate in my view. That
Yep.
Obviously for someone to access the service underground and remove the manhole lid,
Right.
they've in effect got to close down the whole road
Oh,
to do that,
okay.
to do it safely.
Yeah.
Most local authorities put their services one side or the other of
Yeah.
the road so that they can have contra traffic. You can switch it and go one way for a certain period of time on a stop-go banner control and turn the other way around.
Right.
But that certainly puts paid to any of that.
Yeah.
It's a narrow road anyway. It's
Yeah.
not a two-lane facility. It's
Right.
a one-way road.
Yeah, right, okay. And what about the street lights? Did you pick up anything with them? I mean, they look artistic as far as I can see, and I think they're meant to represent whalebones from what I've been told.
Yeah,
but
I looked at those specifically. because
Right, okay.
They're quite novel.
yeah,
And I looked at them with a view to whether they provided the sufficient clearance for a high vehicle.
right,
I didn't see any signs prohibiting the traffic type that
Right.
uses the road.
okay,
So there's nothing to stop a furniture van going down there if the driver is so want.
yep,
And I just wonder whether the pole supports wouldn't be in a conflict zone
right,
with a truck of certain height. 4.2 metres is
Yeah.
the legal height. And because the road is crowned, there is a camber or tilt towards the curb,
right,
and a truck obviously sits on that pavement surface and leans accordingly.
of course,
And over a 4.2 metre height, it leans some distance.
yeah.
And I just wonder whether there's been sufficient thought about whether there wouldn't be conflict in the side of the truck.
John, you spoke earlier about your experience with roads. What do you think is the state of the roads in Victor Harbour?
They're mature. They've had lots of pavement repairs, pothole patching. They've had lots of services dug through them and reinstated. And as a result, the pavement surface is pretty rough.
Right,
One in particular, Whalers Road, I've decided must be one of the roughest roads in the whole area.
right, okay,
And yet it's a fairly major route. All the boaties use it to cut through from the ring road to get to the boat ramp.
yes,
A lot of service vehicles use that as a connection between Franklin Parade and the ring road or
Okay.
Waipinga Road. So that's a pity, and I've often wondered how I would go, or how I'd recommend going about repairing that.
right,
Bringing in new gravel was a very costly exercise. I think that's a candidate for pavement rehabilitation,
right,
which means that you use to the best of your ability what you have and improve on it.
right,
So you would put a rotor mill through there and scrunch up the existing gravel and its asphalt or seal, and you would put it down with a bitumen stabilant or something like that, relay it, recompact it, and
Yeah.
then resurface it.
right,
As to whether the council would have the wherewithal to pay for that sort of rehabilitation is another matter.
yeah.
There's more roads in the area than that.
Well, I guess if you get elected to council, that would be something you would be looking at.
Absolutely.
Yes.
I would look into that with great relish.
Yeah, yeah, and being that is your, your experience and your level of knowledge, do you think that, and I'm very much one for preventative is always better than reactionary when it comes to maintenance. Is there things that we could be doing possibly better in the council that would make our ratepayer dollar go further when it comes to roads?
Well, I understand there's a lot of consultants employed by council,
Right,
and I would have thought that a council should have in-house expertise. I think they should be able to construct roads and do drainage projects with their own in-house resources. I'd like to understand just what the capacity there is in this particular council.
right, okay. Yes, I would think that, from what I'm hearing from you, potentially you'd almost be wanting to work for the council versus holding them account. But I'd rather you're on my side anyway, mate.
Well, I'd like to think that there'd be a close nexus between myself and the engineering and works part of the administrative function of the council.
Yeah.
I'd like to understand just what their level of skill is.
Yes.
And resourcing.
Yeah.
And work on a consensus basis, cooperative basis.
Yes.
Not instruction,
No.
thou shalt do this.
Yeah.
Just generally be helpful and bring my experience to bear.
We've been speaking to John Milner. Thanks for coming down and giving us some of your time and having a look at all these major projects that be coming up, and we appreciate and hope that you get on council and provide that oversight that I think is much strongly needed. Authorised by Carlos QUAREMBA, 16 Graham Street, Victor Harbour. Spoken by Carlos QUAREMBA and John Milner. 45 Jagger Road, Encounter Bay.